Hi, I'm Lucia from the Harvest Cook, and today we're going to be talking about the Pantry Party Part 2, where we're looking at how to have an efficient and effective pantry that allows you to easily cook healthy plant-based foods. It's a bit of a sequel to Pantry Party number 1, which was the one previous post talking about how to find a space for food storage even if you have limited space, as well as some good ways to organize your bulk foods so they're easy to access and keeps them safe. So let's take a look at some of the main points in what you want to know for stocking your pantry. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see that we're going to be talking about what to put in the space that you have now gotten for your pantry. Having a well-stocked pantry can help you to avoid last-minute runs to the store, can help you to save money, to save time, and to have healthier choices because you have healthier food on hand. Last time we talked about how to prepare space, maybe in a closet, under a bed, cleaning out some of the less healthy food from the food storage space you currently have, or maybe even using a shelving unit in the garage. And we also talked about how to store things conveniently, like in glass, that you can see through it and doesn't interact with your food, is a nice, clean way to keep your food stored. And I'm actually going to show you just a little video right now of what some of my containers look like in my cupboard. So hang on just a second. We will go back to that. Here's the cupboard where I keep things like dry beans and some of my baking goods. So I see these half gallons work really well for me. And so I have all my different kinds of beans. Some I have labeled, some I don't. Since you can see through, a lot of times I can tell exactly what I have in it without even having a label on it. Down here, I have some of my baking things, date sugar, starches, arrowroot, almond butter, got it on its head so that the oil doesn't all go to the top, fenugreek seed, and a few odds and ends. So I find that this kind of arrangement is really helpful for my small spaces in my kitchen. So, are you ready to stock up? I do recommend doing it in stages. Like maybe get what you need for a week's menu at a time. But instead of just buying enough for the recipe you're planning to make, buy enough to have some on hand for later use. That's a way to stock your pantry. It also helps you to save money. You can look for deals. You can get a lot of these things at your regular grocery store, but if you buy larger containers, then it allows you to save money because volume buying is usually a little cheaper. I'm also going to give you a printable list at the end of this presentation that you can take to the store with you. So stay tuned, and I'll tell you how to get that when we get to the end of our presentation. Another reason to do this in stages is that if you do it all at once, it can get pretty expensive. Now, what should you keep on hand? There's several different categories of foods that I suggest you keep on hand. One of the first categories is legumes. And this is where a lot of your main dishes will be based on legumes. You can get them canned or dried. I find that it's much cheaper to prepare dry beans in a crock pot. It's almost foolproof, and it's half or less of the price of canned beans. But if you work outside of the home, you're very busy, you're not going to have a lot of time to do cooking, it's always handy to have some cans of cooked beans on hand. So I usually have some of both. The majority of my beans will be dry, but I will have a few cans of maybe black beans or pinto beans or garbanzos that I can pull off the shelf and really whip something up quickly. I also try to get my beans organic if possible. The reason is that beans tend to have quite a bit of Roundup sprayed on them during their growing, and so I like to avoid that. So I go for organic whenever I can get it. I also want to have a variety of colors and flavors on hand. When we're looking at a plant-based diet, variety of whole foods is important for good nutrition. So I might have pintos, black beans, lentils, red and green, chickpeas, maybe also split peas, green or orange for split pea soup, black-eyed peas, cranberry beans, there's all kinds. But you'll want to have probably at least 3 or 4 on hand, and these 4 are the ones that most recipes are likely to call for. What about whole grains? I always like to have brown rice. I prefer long grain rice, and I really like the flavor of basmati. But there are a lot of varieties of rice. You can try different ones out, see which ones you like best. I also try to have whole grain pasta on hand. That could be a whole wheat pasta, a brown rice pasta, or one of the many different bean pastas that are also available commonly in the grocery stores now. And then I'd look at bread products. I'd want whole grain breads, maybe tortillas for wraps from brown rice or from whole wheat. Old-fashioned oats and quick oats are real staples to keep on hand. They're used in all kinds of recipes, besides being really nice to have on hand for hot cereal breakfasts. Quinoa and millet are both very nutritious grains that cook up easily, can be used as a hot cereal, and are also used as ingredients in a lot of different dishes. Nuts and seeds. Now I like to have a variety of nuts and seeds. These tend to be items that are a little more expensive, but remember, if you're not buying animal products, you're going to have a little extra money to put into things like nuts and seeds. I keep mine in a cool place, like a refrigerator or a freezer for my bulk supply, and then I'll keep like a small jar on the shelf in the cupboard in my kitchen for everyday use, for using in recipes, that sort of thing. Because the oils are a bit unstable, keeping them cool will allow you to keep a larger amount of nuts on hand for a long period of time. In a freezer, nuts will keep almost indefinitely. In a refrigerator, months and months. On the shelf, maybe a couple of months. And if you bought them fresh, they should still be good for a couple of months. I like to keep on hand raw almonds, raw walnuts. We like raw pecans. Hazelnuts are great. I do use raw cashews in cooking a fair amount, so I always try to keep those on hand as well. Some seeds, sunflower seeds, the raw sunflower seeds are the way I like to buy them because they're more versatile. You can use them in a lot of things. If you want some roasted, sunflower seeds for a snack or something, then you can always roast the raw ones that you have. So I always just buy them raw. Hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, all very nutritious and make great additions to smoothies, baked goods, and all sorts of things. Fruits. Here I'm talking about the non-perishable forms of fruits, things like dried fruits, raisins, dried cranberries, dried cherries. I try to get them unsweetened. Dates. Dates work as a really great natural sweetener in many things. Dried pineapple, dried mango. Those are all ways in which you can get fruits for your pantry. I also like to keep canned pineapple on hand. It's about the only canned fruit that I keep on hand, and I always make sure that it's canned in its own juice, not in heavy syrup, so it doesn't have any added sugar. What about veggies? We usually think about veggies as being a perishable that you keep in the refrigerator. But personally, I like to have a variety in my freezer that I can grab anytime I just need to add some veggies to a meal. Some things like frozen broccoli, mixed vegetables, peas, green beans, corn are nice staples. Also like sometimes to get the blends that you can use for like a quick stir fry of the Asian vegetable blends. If you don't like to chop onions, one of the things you can do is put onions in your food processor and process a whole bunch of onions at once and then put them into like half-cup portions in small Ziploc bags and keep those in your freezer to pull out as a convenient way of having onions when you're baking or using other dishes that require onions. Seasonings are a really important part of my pantry. Let me see if I can show you here a video of my seasoning cupboard. Let me see here. There we go. I think this is it. So here's a little tour of my spice cupboard. One of the most important cupboards, I think, in my kitchen, because this is what makes things taste good. I have large bulk size parsley, onion, and garlic powders. And I really do prefer the granulated to powders or any other form. It doesn't cake, makes it easy to measure. And I have my little baking scale up here and a Lazy Susan with some of my larger jars of seasonings. And then on the bottom shelf, I have another Lazy Susan. I have room for little jars on the top and bigger jars on the bottom. Make sure everything is labeled. I reuse a lot of my glass jars because I want to keep my herbs in glass jars for preserving flavor. And this is a little handy hack. I just love this little shelf, which allows me to stack my jars. A lot of the ones that are all the same size. And so it makes it easy to get stuff that's even in the back of my cupboard. Then I put some of the taller, bigger things towards the back. So that gives you a little idea of the variety of seasonings that I like to keep on hand. And you might have noticed I like to keep things like basil, oregano, Italian seasoning, cumin, turmeric, coriander, cardamom. Those are some of my go-tos, marjoram and thyme, dill weed. Those are all things that I use really commonly. Other seasonings that you might consider are things like coconut aminos or Bragg's aminos, which help to give kind of a rich, beefy flavor to a lot of dishes. I use a few seasoning blends, like my own chicken style seasoning, and also like a seasoned salt, which is really great for all kinds of vegetable dishes, pasta, or dressings. There's a list of a lot of these in the checklist that I'm going to give you a link to at the end of this video. Some other miscellaneous items that you may need are things like arrowroot for thickening gravies, a non-GMO cornstarch for thickening fruit sauces, maybe lecithin or nutritional yeast, salt is also among the seasonings, and maybe some good, a small amount of good quality oils like an extra virgin olive oil and a unrefined virgin coconut oil. Don't use a lot of oils, but it can be handy to have a little bit on hand for certain things. So here is the promised link. You can go right here to get my free pantry checklist. It will ask you for your email, and then it will take you straight to a place where you can link to and download my pantry checklist. When you give me your email, that allows me to let you know when I'm going to have special programs, trainings, webinars, that sort of thing. I don't get them out very often, so I'm not going to be filling your inbox with spam. And at any time, if you don't want to be hearing from me by email, you can always unsubscribe to the list. But that's the only way right now to get my free pantry checklist. So I hope you enjoy that. Put any comments or questions in the comment area below. And remember that as you are doing this transition for health and for energy, that you do it one step at a time. So I just want to say, have a great day, and I will look forward to interacting with you on another Facebook Live coming up soon.